number 1.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's Astra's party time. This is one of those that I've been meaning to get around to at some point, so let's get them done. Now, there were a whole load of these. There are plenty of these Astra multiplayers available in the emulator already. I'll just show you a list of them on screen, and that may not necessarily be all of them. Also, other manufacturers got on this multiplayer bandwagon too. I am going to focus specifically on the original Party Time in this video. Party Time itself had loads of different versions as well. There were versions with more slave units. There was that sit-down one, the Party Time Arena, and all the rest of it. However, like I say, I'm going to focus on the original one because it's the concept behind these games. Astra were the first out of the gate, and the concept that they launched with Party Time really caught on. They did very, very well out of it, and many other manufacturers jumped on the bandwagon as well. And the thing is that conceptually, they've kind of all got the same thing going on. Everything that came after this was essentially a variation on this original theme, because what you have here is the idea of having slave units and a top unit. Now, I'm quite sure we're all very well aware of what Party Time is, but just for the sake of completeness, what you essentially have here are 4 different machines. We can see this in the emulator, by the way, because you actually have 4 copies of the emulator running here. Each of these slave units and the top box is essentially a fruit machine with all the fruit machine gubbins inside it, and they have some networking between them to enable them to talk to one another. And the thing that adds is the ability for them to know which each of them is doing. So what you do as the player, you come up and you choose one of the units, you put your money in, and you play it like a normal fruit machine. They're pretty simple, low-tech. You've only got 3 wins. You've got X's, bars, and the jackpot symbols, which are worth £1, £5, and £15 respectively. And then every time you get a win, even if it's just the X's for £1, you then get that very exciting pause, and you find out whether or not you go up to the top game, Party Time, player 1, it's you. And then you go up to the top game and you spin these reels up at the top. You always get at least 1 win. And then after that, you can get more wins or these reels will miss. And that's how they are there. You can see there, they're on £2, £2 and jackpot. And if you miss, you go back to the bottom game. Also, because the first win always lands, because the first spin is always a win, if you see the £5 symbol or the jackpot symbol, if you see a jackpot symbol spinning on reel 1, you know you've got a jackpot. They also had streaks in them. They would save over time for a streak, and these were capable of some very big tops, even on the original £15 jackpot. Now, Party Time itself had multiple versions. It got an upgrade to the £25 jackpot, and it then had multiple evolutions over the years. I'll try and find some pictures for you and put them up on the screen. There was also, we ended up with the Party Time game that had the sort of big plasma display in the middle where you had a kind of video game style thing, but that basic concept always remained the same, is that you had a number of, say, slave units, and some of them got up to, didn't they get up to like 8 slaves or something? There was some ridiculous number of slave units that you could have, and the idea that what you were playing for was always to go up to the top reels. Now, these were, even on the Isle of Man, these were, I would say, the last 2 big things in the world of fruit machines that really took off were the party time games, or the party time concept, if you will, and the deal or no deals. BFM, of course, hit massive pay dirt with the deal or no deal machines, but party time was the other one. And even here on the Isle of Man, when arcades were in their dying days, we had two main arcades left in Douglas. That's the capital of the Isle of Man. In going to the back end of the £15 era into the £25 era, one of those arcades just about limped into the £25 era. The other one lasted a reasonable amount of time into the £25 era, but that was gone before the £35 jackpot. Both of those arcades had party times. One of them had a stand-up 3-player, which they got very early on in the piece, and then they later put in a party time arena thing. I think that had 5 slave units? Or 6, I don't remember, but they had both of those going at the same time. And what I sort of noticed straight away was that these machines were very popular. They really caught on with players. People really liked these. It was a novel concept. It was something new, this idea of a linked game, and kind of giving you a connection to the people who were playing them with you as well. It was like this kind of joint endeavour to get up to the top, and it almost engendered this kind of feeling of mutual quest to get up to the top and seek out those big wins. It also started all kinds of superstitions about how these work, particularly amongst those of an older persuasion. I'm sure we've all seen the pensioners doing all and convincing themselves of all kinds of weird things that you could do with these party times to encourage them to go up to the top. Frantic bashing of buttons was one, letting the nudges time out was another. Some people had it in their head that if you moved around the machines or you put credits into more than one of them, all kinds of nonsense that was floating around in regards to these and how to play them. But to the best of my knowledge, the party time games in all of their various incarnations were not one of them. But these did turn up and they stuck around. Even the bowling alley here that we had, that for a relatively short period of time had quite a few fruit machines in it, but they just weren't getting played at that point. That was in the £70 era, and they had a sit-down party time, which I think had 3 slaves. It might have been 4 or 5. That was on the £25 jackpot, but that was in the £70 era. So these things really did stick around. I also remember the very last time that I went into the arcades in Blackpool, which was many, many years ago. I referred to that in the video about Omega and the Blackpool arcades. The last time I went out there with my dad, we were in the area for some other reason, and for old time's sake, we had a little look around the arcades. They were very much on their arse at that time. It was clear that the heyday of the Blackpool arcades had kind of gone by that point. But oh, by crikey, there were so many party times and those similar games around the place on the kiddie jackpots of £5, because there were all of this stuff got done in £5 jackpots, 10p £5 for the little kiddies to play. And then you had the big boy versions in the adults only sections of those arcades. Very, very popular game, and you can't really fault Astra. They came up with a winning formula here. I don't really blame them for absolutely milking it and for other manufacturers to jump on the bandwagon. We've got quite a few of those emulated as well. There's ones on the MPU 4 tech. There's ones on the MPU 5 tech. I think there's even some on the Scorpion 4 and 5 as well. But Astra here built it on their own tech. Like I say, you basically got 4 fruit machines here, including in the top box as well. That has got the internals of a fruit machine in it. And what Wizard had to do in the emulator here, very, very clever. None of us really know how he did it, but he was able to emulate that internal networking that goes on between these 4 units here. And we can play this properly as a 3-player in the emulator. Also, some of the arena ones are emulated too, where you've got far more slaves than 3. That's covered in one of the MFME release videos I'll put a graphic of that on screen because I did talk about that when that was first implemented in the emulator. Because the other thing as well, of course, is they wanted these things to be able to carry on running even if one of them was bust. So if Slave Unit 1 wasn't working, they didn't want the whole thing to just drop on its arse. So Slave Units 2 and 3 could carry on taking money, and they would still be able to go up to the top box as well. So it did make sense in that regard to separate them out so that each unit was its own piece of hardware. Now, exactly how these things handle their percentages has always been a little bit of a topic of conversation. Like, do they have like a shared pot between them that they can pay the streaks out of? Or does each slave essentially maintain itself as its own machine and then throw you up to the top box as part of its own compensation and part of its RTP? For me, the latter there makes more sense. That would be a better way of doing it. And they just use the top box essentially as an extension of themselves and just a place to play out the feature, if you will. They will also wait for each other as well. That's the thing, because there's nothing to stop more than one slave unit triggering a win that goes up to the top whilst one of them is already up there. And when that happens, they will just wait for each other. Now, these ones here, the original party time has a simple 7seg numerical display on it. Some of the later ones have a proper alphanumeric dot matrix display, but they all have a little bit of text that they can show, essentially saying wait while the other players finish, and then you can go up to the top game to see your big spins. Streak-wise, even on the original £15 jackpot, these could do some pretty big tops. I think I saw 75s in the arcade here. There was talk of them being able to do more than that, even like a 90 or a 105. Then the 25s again had some pretty big streaks in them. They're still going now. The games like this, games that run on this essentially the exact same concept, still exist now on the £100 jackpot. There was quite a reasonably successful one not that long ago that was based on the Batman IP. I think that was in the £70 jackpot era. And certainly even now, if you look at these videos of these retro arcades that have opened up around the place, we've had one in Blackpool recently as well. I'll try and dig some footage out of that, but you will be hard pushed to find an arcade, even like a retro arcade, that doesn't have one or more, in some cases several, of these kinds of machines in there. That same basic concept of the slaves that go up to a top box. For this video, I'm going to focus on Party Time. This is the one that we're going to play because this is the original. This is the one where Astra kicked something off in the £15 era that is still very much present in arcades today on a £100 jackpot. So like I say, you can't knock them for that. They really came up with a decent concept here that has borne the test of time with players. And I saw it being very popular with a wide cross-section of players. That was the thing. Quite often in arcades, you would see the grannies would very much have, and that's why we called them, did we not, the granny machines. And Party Times and Friends, they appealed to those grannies, but you would also see other players chancing their arm on these things, including myself, whilst normally I would not bother. If you put me in an arcade where I had low-techs and high-techs to choose from, I'd generally steer clear of the low-techs. They didn't really interest me, and I'd stick to the high-techs. But even I was quite happy to stick a few pounds in Party Time or other, slave and top box style machines, because that addition of the top game, even though logically you knew it was just a different place for the machine to show the wins, there was something very, very exciting about every single time you even got a £1 win. Because normally on a low-tech, getting the bottom win, which is almost always a quid, isn't it? So getting a £1 win on a £15 jackpot machine or a £25 jackpot machine, it feels a bit shit. But getting a £1 win and knowing that it can throw you up to that top game and then start paying out potentially multiple jackpots, that's a really good hook. And I liked that as a player myself, and I liked that as someone who, quite frankly, generally gave low-techs a pretty wide berth. They were not my favourite type of game to play at all, but Party Time worked for me as well. So let's have a go at it. It all works properly in the emulator here. All the networking is emulated, the whole thing. Quite how Wizard did this, it's another one of his magnificent pieces of work. As great as I have always thought the emulator is, in my head I thought there were some things that we'd never get to see. Multiplayer games were one of those, because I just didn't imagine that even someone as great as Wizard with this stuff, I thought, well, that's going to be a bridge too far for him. But nope, here we go, we've got them running, and with more slaves than this as well. But here we go, we'll try the basic 3-player version. Now, the auto player here isn't like a super duper, it'll do the whole thing for you. Can you see there? If you get holds or you get nudges, you've got to do it yourself. Now, some of them will literally completely play themselves, but this is not one of them. Now, we have got a quid there, so that will potentially give us an opportunity here. I'll let that one just finish, so we haven't got that one making noise. So here you go. Just when you get a £1 win, you've got the chance to go up to the top. Let's see. No! And that's where you just... Oh, bollocks, it's just a £1 win. But that means that's the hook here. A really, really good hook. Is you don't have to go... That's the other thing as well. You don't have to go for a specific combination. Like if you think back to the... like the Red Hot roll, or, you know, bar crest low-techs and that kind of thing, where you had to get like a specific combination of symbols. If you didn't get like the 3 Red Hot roll symbols, then you knew you weren't getting a feature. Whereas on these, by tying that in essentially with any win, it means that you're always on the lookout, literally for anything, because that can put you up to the top game. It was a good idea. Like I say, I doff my cap to Astra. They came up with a good idea on this one. It worked really well. So there we are. We have got a chance for a £1 win there. Oh, let's just get... Oh, we've got a hold after nudges there on that one. We've got a hold there. So let's just see.
Party time number 2.
There we are. It has gone up. So now we've got... and we guaranteed a win. I always let it time out, by the way. The way I'm doing it in the emulator is exactly the way I did it in the arcade. It doesn't wait for that long. You get the nice little boppy bit of music there. And it feels like you're getting your value for money because you've gone up to the top game. So we've got our £2 there. That's the minimum prize. Oh, there we go. It's done a £5 as well. So it has done a £5. Remember that we've got a hold after nudges on Party Time 1 there. So... do remember, only your first one is guaranteed, so it can just be £2 and you're out. But we've already got £7 there, so come on. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, there we go. There's another £5, and I think we are out of credits there. Yeah, we're going to have to put more money in. So that's £12 up to now. I suppose I would always let that time... Oh! Oh! There we are a bit... It's exciting enough in the emulator, to be honest. These were great when they went big in the arcade. I think the best... Go on, let's have it. Oh, it's not doing bad, this one, is it? I think the best I had in the arcade here, it was 20... I think it went jackpot, jackpot, jackpot for 25, and then 2 more jackpots, I want to say. Oh, this is not bad. That's... What did we have? Did we already have £2 in the bank or not? I can't remember, but that's not a bad top. Oh, come on. Come on. Oh, look at that. I didn't know it was going to do this. I haven't done any special prep for this. Well, there you go. You can see now, once these things start going a little bit at the top, they can get very exciting. Oh, that looks like a dead spin to me. That felt like a dead spin to me. So there you go. That was not a bad top, was it? Now, we know that we've got... There we are. We know that we've got a hold after nudges. That can go up as well. No, it hasn't. That hasn't gone up. Okay, then. So we did see at least that was a decent little top there, wasn't it? We've got a X's win on party time 3. No. Okay, fine. We can't get a win there. We've got to collect the bank on that one. Yeah, there are some of them. Like, you can press autoplay, so you can load the thing up with credits. Just press autoplay, and it will literally do the whole thing for you. These ones do demand a little bit more interaction. There we are. So let's collect our bank on that one. So we did okay there on slave number 2, didn't we? That one paid out. That was a decent top there. Let's just see if we can get a top on the other 2. I mean, you could hold your 2 other kinds there, but we'll just keep it belting on. So now this, I'll just show you, by the way. See, if you let the nudges now, I saw people, even the grannies would like nudge one reel and leave the other reel, or they just let the whole thing. See, now it only did one nudge there. What I'll show you is if you let it time out, sometimes it gives you more nudges than you actually had, and I think people were convinced, and occasionally of course it would actually nudge in a win, and I think people got convinced that, oh, so we can actually get a straight win there, so we'll do that. No, it's not wanting to go up. They could also go, by the way, on pretty dead spells in not going up, you know, where you could get quite a lot of wins and it wouldn't go up. They could get quite frustrating. Let's see if that goes up. Yeah, there we go. So we're up. Player 1 is up. I mean, what we could see is, I wonder if we can get another win going on these while that's up there. Because they will just wait for each other. Because this is the other thing. Some people would stop playing. Oh, and we need to put more in there, don't we? Some people would stop playing while it was at the top box because they felt that if they... Oh, we're having a decent one on jackpots here, aren't we? Jackpot on slave 1 there. Yeah, some people seem to think that it wouldn't go up if they carried on playing while somebody was already up there, so they'd stop playing and watch the other person go up. Which again was not a bad idea in itself, because it, you know, even if you weren't winning, you were watching other people playing. You were watching, maybe, you know, by definition, people on a different machine to you going up. So there was that enticement to almost like peer pressure, invisible sort of peer pressure, insofar as even though they weren't saying anything to you directly, just the mere act of watching them play. Or, you know, if they lost, you might think, oh, well, it'd be my turn to win. And if they won, you perhaps say, oh, well, mine's going to win now as well. I mean, people could be superstitious in whatever way kind of suits the narrative of what they're doing at the time, can't they? Will that go up? Oh, look at that. Yep, it's gone up as well. That one has gone up as well. I think you could argue, by the way, that these early ones were arguably the best balanced. Obviously, the bigger the jackpot got, and I thought even the £25 one suffered from this a little bit, is that the bigger the jackpot got, oh, it started with a fiver there, the slightly more disappointing the tops could become. I think they reduced the... oh, we've got to put more credits in that one. I think they reduced or increased the tops, rather, to a minimum of £5. I think that might be right. On the £100 jackpot, you always get at least a fiver. But it starts to feel a little bit mean relative to... Oh, we've got a hold there. It starts to feel a little bit mean relative to the size of the jackpot. Whereas these £15 jackpots, and to a slightly lesser extent the £25 jackpots could be a little bit more generous in that regard with the jackpot wins and jackpot adjacent wins up here. Oh, that's held. See there, it has held as well. It's held after the win, so that might put us up again. Let's have a look. And you can see here it's held again. It's become quite the sound and light show here when you have all three of them going at the same time. Oh, we've gone up again. They can become very, very active machines when they're all going at once. And we've only got 3 of them going here. Remember that you could have more than that as well. So I'm sure we're very, very familiar with these. So I don't really need to labour the point too much on this one. I do think these are worth having on the channel, though, because I think these were significant machines. These were a kind of whole new genre that took off in a big way and saw substantial success in the arcades. They also, like I say, we had one of them in a bowling alley, and they would turn up in locations like that. They were, of course, arcade machines. You're not going to see something like this in the pub. So they were very much directed at that sort of arcade and other similar venue market. But they did very well. Let's just have a look. We'll see where this one finishes up. Go on, baby. Oh, there we go. We've had a few. We've actually not done too bad here. Oh, that's held again. That's held 58 times up to now. One more. Oh, and it's held again. Now, you know what? I'm going to put another £3 in there in case it goes up. We'll just hold that one more time. Do you want to go up again? No, and there we go. So I think I'll leave it there on these. If there's anything more sort of deep dive kind of thing that's worth doing. I mean, like recently, for example, I ended up doing a pretty deep dive on Big 50. You know, the first of the recent videos was already the second video that I've made about Big 50, and then I did the follow-up on that one when we got that data sheet from JPM back in the day. I'm always happy to do stuff like that. If I think we can do more of a deep dive on something, and it is justified, I'm always happy to do this. But my initial thought on doing the party times and everything that came after them was purely because I think these are pretty significant machines. One of the last big hurrahs of the traditional arcade in terms of a new game that just like every single arcade would have had one of these, and it's a concept that has endured to the extent that you're still going to find these on sometimes on the sort of legacy old-fashioned jackpots, but even now there are machines like this that are running on £100 jackpots in arcades today, so you can't really argue with that. It's something that's been going now for over 25 years, because these came out in the £15 era, and they're still around in essentially the same form here in the £100 era. So there you go. That is Astra. That's party time. Like I say, there are loads and loads of these available in the emulator. So if you've got some others in mind, one that does spring to mind, which I think was one of the earlier ones that Astra brought out after this, was Top Slot. I do remember there being a Top Slot on a £25 jackpot in that arcade on the Isle of Man, the one that had the sit-down version of the party time as well as the stand-up version. But beyond that, because remember, we lost our last arcades now. Must be, I think it was around 2004 it shut down. Something around there, 2004, 2005. So it's basically 20 years since we've had arcades on the Isle of Man now. And these are very much arcade machines. But if you've got memories of some other one of these multiplayer games, and certainly if they were by Astra, there's a pretty good chance that they're going to be emulated as well if they use this older Astra Sys1 tech. Obviously, at some point, they've moved to a newer tech, which isn't going to be emulated. But there are plenty of these to play in the emulator as well. So there you go. I think that'll do it. Thank you very much for watching. Do hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will catch up with you next time. But for now, it is goodbye.